So, when was the last time you did something just for fun? Not networking, not a business retreat, and nothing you could write off as a tax deduction. Just for fun. If you feel guilty the second you aren't being productive, you haven't built a lifestyle, you've built a trap. But the most important business decision you'll ever make has nothing to do with your funnels or your revenue. We're redesigning your business from the life outward. I'm sharing the 5 dream business filters to help you stop building for applause and start building for alignment. It's time to build a business that supports your life instead of consuming it. Welcome to the Midlife Business Academy. I'm Lori Lyons, marketing strategist, business coach, and accidental techie. After years of running a successful website design agency, I'm now building the business of my dreams and helping other midlife entrepreneurs do the same. From strategy to marketing to mindset, we covered what really matters when you're growing a business that fits your life. Let's get started. Welcome to the Midlife Business Academy. I'm Lori Lyons, and this is the place where we talk about building a business that actually fits your life, not the other way around. So let's get started. A few years ago, I was reading a Michael Hyatt book. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. I think I got it on Kindle Unlimited. But if you know his work, you know he really has some good questions. The kind that kind of seems simple on the first, the kind that seems sort of simple on the surface, but then really knock you for a loop. He asked, "What do you do for fun?" I put the book down. I sat there and I tried to answer it honestly, and I couldn't. I did nothing for fun. It was all about the business. It was all about the work. And it's not because I didn't have interests or I didn't know myself, but because I'd spent so long prioritizing the business that the fun in my life had just kind of disappeared. It had quietly slipped off the calendar, and I hadn't even noticed. And here's what really got me. I felt guilty when I wasn't working. If I was having fun, some little part of my brain was always whispering that I should be doing something productive, that enjoyment was something I had to earn. The rest was a reward, not a right. And that's not a lifestyle. That's a trap. So I made a decision. I was going to find something fun and actually do it. My husband and son rode motorcycles and they loved it. The freedom of it, the community, the weekend rides, they would go off for a couple of hours and they'd come back full of stories and they'd talk to each other along the way. And it just sounded like fun. And I've always watched from the sidelines. So I thought, why not? I'll learn to ride. So I walked into the garage where they were tinkering with their bikes and said, I want to learn to ride a motorcycle. And my son and all of his 25-year-old wisdom looked up at me and, excuse the French, said, "No shit, Mom, really?" And I said, "Yes, I really do." So that afternoon, we went up to the local church that had a big parking lot, and I started learning to ride a motorcycle. And it was a lot of fun. It was completely terrifying, but it was a lot of fun. So I went and took the motorcycle basic safety course. It was a 2-day, 4-day course. I was the oldest one in the course, even older than the instructors. And it really kind of hit home when one of the kids, they all thought it was really cool that I was there. And one of the kids came up and said, "Boy, I wish my grandma would do this." I thought, great. But here's the plot twist. When you're riding a motorcycle in Atlanta traffic, it's not fun. And Atlanta is definitely known for its traffic. And I don't care how much you love riding, Atlanta traffic will suck the joy right out of it. So I ended up selling the bike. But here's what matters. I did it. I tried something just for me. And that decision cracked something open. In fact, not too long ago, I had to go I had lost my debit card and I had to go get a new one. And when I handed the teller my driver's license to reorder it, he, he in all of his, 20 something self said, "You have a motorcycle license." And I said, "Yes, I do." I didn't tell him I was no longer riding, but I have it. It's there on my license and it will always be there. I'm going to be a 93-year-old grandma with a motorcycle license. But anyway, it kind of got me going because after that I started gardening. My sister gardened and it looks so much fun. And I've had a few pots on the porch, but nothing really serious. So now I have this beautiful perennial garden in the backyard. And I also revived something I'd loved for years and I'd totally abandoned. Tablescaping, setting a beautiful table, pulling out the good china. And believe me, I have a lot of good china, a lot of different patterns. And I wanted to make something lovely just because. Now, my family makes fun of it. And, not making fun of it in the sense that they make fun of me, but it's like, really, do we have to have the good stuff out? Yes, we do, because it gives me enjoyment. And here's what all of that required: a business that gave me space to actually do this, a lifestyle business, not someday, now. And this is what I'm building toward. Because before that shift, I felt guilty every time I wasn't working. I felt guilty when I left my mastermind because I didn't have the same goals as they did. Fun felt like a luxury I hadn't earned yet. And that's no way to live, especially when you've worked as hard as we have to build something of our own. And especially when you've been working for 50 something years. And that's what we're building toward today. So we've spent the first two episodes naming the problem, the dream that changed, the misaligned business, and what it's actually cost you. So let's talk about what building it right actually looks like. And I want to be really clear here. This is not a tactical conversation. I'm not going to give you a 17-step system or framework, believe it or not, for restructuring your business model. This is a strategic conversation, an identity conversation, because before you change anything in your business, you have to get honest about what you actually want your life to look like. So let's start there. What do you want your days to feel like? Not your revenue goals, not your follower count, your days, the actual texture of your daily life. Do you want slow mornings? Do you want to be done working by 2 o'clock? Do you want Fridays completely off? Do you want to take your grandkids to school on Wednesdays? Do you want to spend 3 weeks in Italy without your laptop running the show? Those aren't indulgent questions. Those are the most important questions to ask because the answers to those questions should be driving every single business decision that you make. And most of us have it completely backwards. We build the business first and then squeeze our life into whatever space is left over. And then we wonder why we're exhausted and resentful and daydreaming about doing something entirely different. What if you designed it the other way around? What if the life came first and the business was built to support it? That's not a radical idea. That's the whole point. So I want to walk you through some questions. These are what I call the dream business filters. They're designed to help you get really honest about what you're building toward. First question: how much do you actually want to work? Not how much you think you should work, not what looks serious, not what everybody else says, but how much do you want to work? What does your ideal week actually look like in terms of hours, days, and energy? Go back and listen to episode 289, where I talked about building your ideal perfect week and what that looks like. Second question: What do you never want to do again? Because this one's important. Because most of us keep doing things in our business out of habit or obligation or fear, not because they're working or because we enjoy them. What would you eliminate tomorrow if you gave yourself permission to stop doing it? Third, what kind of clients actually energize you? Not the clients you think you should serve, the ones that just light you up, the ones you look forward to talking to, the ones that you don't like look at your calendar and groan because they've made an appointment on your calendar. Because when your client roster is full of the wrong people, even a perfectly structured business feels like a grind. Fourth question, what kind of visibility do you actually want? This one's big because everybody's talking about visibility. You have to be visible now. And nobody talks about it honestly. Some people genuinely love being everywhere, the content, the live video, the speaking, the constant presence. And some people find it completely draining. Neither's wrong, but you have to be honest about which one you are, because building a visibility strategy around what you hate is a recipe for burnout. And finally, what kind of income supports your life? Not the income that sounds impressive, not the number that gets applause at a mastermind, the number that lets you live the way you actually want to live. For some people, that's $1 million. For others, it's a very comfortable 250,000. And for others, it may be 50,000. You want to pay for your month in Italy or more. Know your number, your real number, and build toward that instead of chasing someone else's. And last, what are you still trying to prove and to who? Sit with that one for a minute, because so much of what drives our business decisions isn't actually about building something we love. It's about proving something to someone else, a parent, a former boss, a peer, a younger version of ourselves that need to feel worthy. You don't have to keep proving it. You already built something real. The question now is whether you'll build something that fits. Here's what I want you to hear. Midlife entrepreneurs, stop building for applause and start building for alignment. And alignment looks different for everyone. That's the whole point. Maybe for you, because the business of your dreams means fewer premium clients instead of more average ones. Maybe it means licensing your intellectual property so your income isn't completely tied to your time. Maybe it means speaking, getting on stages and getting paid to do it well. Maybe it means a tiny but mighty audience that buys everything you create because you've built real trust with them. Maybe it means systems and boundaries that actually protect your time. Maybe it means doing less, significantly less, but doing it so well that premium pricing feels completely natural. And maybe, like me, it means getting your motorcycle license at 63 and then selling your bike when it stops being fun, setting a beautiful table with china that makes you unreasonably happy. Because that's the thing nobody tells you when you're grinding through the early years of a business. The goal was never the business. The goal was always the life. The business is supposed to be the vehicle, not the destination. And when it becomes a destination, when it starts consuming everything around it, that's the way you know something's gotten out of alignment. The soul framework I introduced the last episode, simplify, optimize, uplevel, and lifestyle, that's the roadmap back. Not back to where you started, but forward to the version of this that actually fits who you are now in this season of your life, with the priorities and the energy and the wisdom you have today. So we've already done 2 journaling exercises over this series. This one is going to pull it all together. So grab that journal one more time. I want you to write out what I call your dream business blueprint. And it's simply this. answer these questions as honestly as you can. What do I want my days to feel like? What do I want my ideal perfect week to feel like? And go listen to that episode if you need to, episode 289. How much do I actually want to work? What do I never want to do again? What kind of clients energize me? What level of visibility actually suits me? What income number supports the life I want to actually live? And then here's the big one. What is one thing I'm going to stop doing, start doing, or change in my business in the next 30 days to move closer to this? Not a list, not a complete overhaul, one thing. Because here's what I know for sure. After everything we've talked about in this series, the business of your dreams doesn't get built in a day. It gets built in decisions. Small, intentional, honest decisions made over time. And that one thing you wrote down, that's your next decision. So make it. So here's where I want to leave you after 3 episodes. You've built something real that matters. Don't let anyone, including yourself, minimize what it took to get here. But building something real doesn't mean you're obligated to keep building it the same way forever. You're allowed to look at what you've created, tell the truth about what's working and what isn't, and redesign it around the life you actually want to live. Not the life that looks good on Instagram, not the life that impresses the mastermind, the life that feels like yours. Slow mornings, if that's what matters. Fun, actual fun without guilt. Work you love with the clients you love for income that supports the life you love. And yeah, maybe a china collection that brings you joy every time you open the cabinet. That's the business of your dreams. And it's absolutely within reach because it's never too late to build the business of your dreams. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on the Midlife Business Academy. If today's episode made you think, or made you feel seen, share it with a fellow business owner who could use it too. When you're ready for more support, you'll find the link to book your Profitable Path Blueprint call in the show notes. I'll be back next week with more insight and strategy to help you build a business that truly fits your life and one of your dreams. We'll see you next time on the Midlife Business Academy.